This show is brought to you in part by Netflix. Head to ctrdeal.com/Netflix for your free 30-day trial. Welcome home, Raiders. WoW Progress releases tons of rating numbers, but what do they mean? How much would you pay for a level 90 character? And if your New Year's resolution was to become a better Raider, we've got you covered. This is Convert to Raid number 125.
You're listening to Convert to Raid.
Convert to Raid.
The podcast for Raiders in the world of Warcraft.
Getting back into the back into the swing of things here. Oh, buttons. Hi, from the Convert to Raid Command Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Today is January 5th, and Happy New Year to you guys. Happy New Year. And it is now 11:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. Oh, yeah. Thanks for joining us from all around World of Warcraft land. And hello, my name is Pat Crane, your host of the show. I'm also called Zug around Airy Peak, U.S. And still raiding. Even over the holiday break, still raiding, of course. And the players are here. Let's go to the Emerald City. Slippery Seattle.
Slippery Seattle's a good one.
Actually, sunny Seattle. It's Dairies.
Oh, that's me.
That is you. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, good. No, it's about 40 degrees. Going to be 50 degrees here today. It's terrible. And sunny.
That's horrible.
I know. But no, I'm doing pretty good. Been a nice long couple weeks. Good Christmas, good New Year's.
Good.
Good everything. And for all those people in the chat room asking where Sasha is, where my dog is, she hasn't made it out here yet. I still haven't figured out how to get her out here.
Well, good luck to you on that, because I know that that's always nice to have your dog with you.
Getting a dog 3,000 miles across the country when no airlines want to fly her.
Right on. Well, let's go out to Hollyweird, California. La La Land, to our funky monk, Raging Mage. It's Koltrane.
Yes. Well, I have a classic fortune cookie from 2013 that some may remember and some may not. Here we go. Fortune cookie say.
Oh boy.
A true test of a Pandaren husband is being sent to the store to get Klaxi pads. Eh?
No.
No? Yes? No? Maybe.
Should have done that Santa one.
Somebody sent in a very inappropriate Santa.
Well, I can't do the Santa one.
No, that's very inappropriate.
Inappropriate. But for those listeners, well, I don't Klaxi pads, it's Klaxi pads.
It wasn't good last year. It's doubly not good this year.
Right.
I don't know. I see a 10 out of 10 from Rulu. So I'm going with that one. And I also see an ugh and a boo. Well, you know what? They can't all be winners, folks.
More Uggs and boos, I think.
I've done 3,000 of these things at this point. They can't all be winners.
Right. Well, at least 100.
I don't think any of them have been winners.
I think you started on episode 3 or 2.
Yeah, I think so.
That. So you've done a lot.
Yeah.
You've done a lot.
I think it was hard to blow nose with bird in hand. I think was they started off a little rough and well, 2 years later, they've still got some hair on it.
Right.
So,
exactly.
There you go. That's the
So,
rub.
Happy New Year, fellas.
Happy New Year.
Happy 2014.
2014.
Oh my gosh.
Holy cow.
My New Year's resolution was to not listen to another fortune cookie. And
wow.
Well, I've already
done.
failed that one.
Already done. That's
I should go to the gym like everyone else.
It's time to go to the gym, folks.
Yep.
Yep. So maybe we should talk about what we've been up to over the last couple of weeks. And Colt, let's start with you, maybe.
Well, old Koltrane, has actually been spending a lot of time with my monk named... Ready, Pat.
Oh, all right. Yes. What is your monk named?
Walk Fu.
Walk Fu.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you for giving me time because I really needed it on that one, and it ended up all right. So that's good.
Right, good.
So that's
I wanted to give you plenty of time to set it up. Start the year off right.
It's been a couple of weeks, and the buttons are a little cold, so it's all good. I'm glad you.
Let's warm them up, baby.
That's right.
Let's warm it up.
Do it.
I have been trying some tanking on the old monk. Yeah,
What?
man. I switched it over to Brewmaster, and I love it. It's great.
What the hell are you doing?
I know, I'm all over the place. Well, here's why.
Yeah.
Here's why. There's method to my madness, and that is this. So, highly recommend my New Year's resolution, one of many, is not to switch mains at the end of an expansion. That's bad idea, right? So I'm still trying to catch up for the old legendary. So I'm at that legendary part where you need the 3,000 valor. That's a lot of valor, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of juice. Now, I know it used to be 6,000 and all that, but for an alt, even 3 is rough. So I got to gather up that valor. So I thought, these queues, if I switch over to Brewmaster, it's like instant. So that's what I did. I switched to Brewmaster. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I'm looking at all these videos online and icy dash veins and all that.
Yeah.
By the way, an old guest of the show, Eat Mo Pie.
Yeah.
He has a great Brewmaster tanking guide for 5.4. I think it's like Evil Curai or something like that is his YouTube name. But it's a great guide on Brewmaster tanking. Anyway, so I did what like a player is supposed to do. I switched the spec. I read the strats, I watch the videos, and then I go into Proving Grounds. And on my first night, I got past silver. I was happy.
Wow.
Yeah, not bad, right? Well, I don't know. I mean, for me, I was jazzed.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, so anyway, I did some tanking, and what was great about the tank is it's like instant queues for dungeons. So you can just grind out these heroics and get this valor. But I really, really had a good time. I was completely fired up about about everything. So I don't know. I dig it.
There is something to be said about instant queues, right?
Yeah, there really is. There really is. But I think like in Warlords, like I like this idea of I could be DPS Windwalker and then off tank. You know what I mean? Like in Mythic Raiding, there's a chance you might need a third tank or however many, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to be an off tank and the Brewmaster is just so much fun. So if you guys haven't tried it yet, man, Brewmaster is a ton of fun. It's great.
I think that for Warlords, we're going to be seeing people switching to all of their different specs within a raid, or at least that's the possibility, right? So because of the way that gear is changing, it's where it changes with your spec, with your primary stats do. And we'll have more on this a little bit later as well as some of the updates that occurred over the last couple of weeks. But
one more thing I did this last week that I just got to get into is I was on Final Boss TV.
Right.
Which was great. Final Boss TV is a endgame rating show. They're more like heroic, hardcore based. They've got a lot of guys from like Methodon and Blood Legion, and then me. I don't understand how that works, but they had me and this guy Brutal from Static Guild. He's an awesome guy. So the latest episode of Final Boss TV was me and Brutal. We kind of did an end of the year, an overview of Miss. So big shout out to Bay, NFL, Brutal. And man, it was a great show. It was a lot of fun. We had some technical difficulties. So a lot of there was like music and singing and dancing. Brutal's like this amazing guitarist with this great voice. So we did a little bromance starting there. I gotta admit, I love him. There's like this weird bromance thing going. So my wife's not too happy about it, but it was good. It was a really good time.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because I was watching that stream and it would go up and then it would come down, and I think there were some things with Twitch going on where it was just it wasn't anything that Bay could have done at all. Right. I think it was all just Twitch being really funky. I think they had some special event going on, and when that happens, man, Twitch can get a little. It screws
everything. They have these like League of Legends tournaments, and it just ruins all of Twitch, for everyone.
Right.
It was a lot of fun.
Well, Darius, what have you been up to over the last couple of weeks?
I moved my priest back to Airy Peak.
Yes.
I was on Deathwing. Sorry, guys, I had to leave. There wasn't much going on there for me anymore. My guild disbanded. So
yeah, that's tough, man.
So back on Airy Peak for now. We'll see what I can do with my priest. But I've been playing my paladin a bit more. Try to gear that up. I think I might use that as like an alt come warlords. I mean, I've got all of the alts, but I'm really digging the paladin, tanking and healing.
Really?
And then played a bit of my rogue for some reason. Got him up to 66. I don't know why. Not really liking it all that much. Part of the reason is the fact that you don't get any AoE until level 66. And then you just get Fan of Knives. You just hit one button through the whole dungeon. You hit one button.
Right. Well, and that's all you do in PvP too, right?
I guess.
That's all you do. Screw it. We're running battlegrounds, just Fan of Knives everywhere.
Yeah. It's just all you do, because you get these tanks that are fully decked out in heirlooms, and they've got all the, they're totally twinked out. They're 5 levels above the dungeon, and they just pull the whole thing, so that you've always got 6 or 7 mobs around you. So you just Fan of Knives the whole time. I'm not digging it.
Isn't
I don't
that
know
a
why.
strange thing? Everyone is in such a rush, man. Like in those dungeons, like the tank, it's like a sprint.
Yeah.
It's like a challenge mode at level 30.
Well,
I don't understand.
If the healer doesn't keep up, they get furious.
Right.
It's like, but you just chain pulled 6 rooms. Like,
Right.
what do you want the healer to do? He's got 2 healing spells.
Right, exactly.
Well, and I've actually been leveling my priest over the last couple of weeks, still doing that, and I've got him up to like level 72, 73 now. And I've had, and I'm just running his disc so that I can do, dungeons, and so that I can quest and, not have to switch specs or anything like that. I'm doing the same thing anyway. I'm bubbling and then smiting. That's about it.
You're probably out DPSing everyone there too.
I'm out DPSing usually 1 or 2 people. It's ridiculous. It is so stupid.
This priest is so easy to level now.
Oh, it's so easy. And one of the things that I've noticed was exactly what you guys were talking about. Like you'd have one tank just running through it like a challenge mode, and you're like, oh, I have to keep up. He's not looting. He's not doing anything. He's just blowing through this thing. And usually those guys are pretty good tanks, at least, so they kind of know what they can do, right? But then you have the guys that want to be those guys. and those guys are maybe not quite so great at tanking.
They're in full Fender greens with intellect on them.
Exactly. And so they're like going through and they're like, why is this not working? I'm pulling 6 groups at a time and dying. What's going on?
Right. But I just wonder, like, what about for new players? Like for us, the tank runs through and we just got to keep up with the tank because it's a full-on sprint challenge mode. But what about new players? Like, do you remember us when you were a new player? And you imagine if you stepped into a dungeon, you're like, oh, what is this? They call this a dungeon? What is this place? This looks amazing. Why is that guy hauling booty down the hallway? I don't know. I think it just ruins the experience for these new WoW players. You get nothing out of it. You're not learning how to use your abilities or anything. For the most part, the tank's doing all the damage too, because they're totally twinked out. They're hitting their 1 AoE. They've got a ton of vengeance. Yeah, it's basicly a challenge mode, like you said, a challenge mode at level 60.
Well, it's not crazy. It's not really that much of a challenge for some of those guys.
No.
It was really cool though. So I was leveling up, and I was in BC content. It's really funny, and we were running through Durnhold, the escape from Durnhold Keep, the one where you release Thrall, and you have to wait for him forever to make that trek from Durnhold Keep to the little farm area, right?
He takes the scenic route, and
he's got the slow riding.
Yeah.
Everything else is pretty fast right now, except he's got the slow riding, so you have to like just wait for like 3 minutes.
You got a 2-person mount, and you're like, Thrall, just come on, just hop on. Let's move it. Go.
Right, exactly. So we were sitting at the little farmhouse waiting, and one of the DKs that was running with us, he said, "So, where are all you guys from?" And everybody kind of went down the list. We had somebody from Canada and somebody from LA or something like that, and I said Minnesota, and he goes, "Oh crap, you're Zug, aren't you?" And I was like, "What? How do you what?" He saw the guild tag, and I'm guessing that he just put 2 and 2 together. It was weird. So
that's awesome.
I think his name was Deathy. So Deathy, hi.
DK. Shout out to Deathy.
That's right. So that was really strange. It was odd times in LFG, I guess.
Yes.
So, all right, maybe we should go and maybe do some raid news. What do you say, fellas?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Calling all raiders from around World of Warcraft land. This is raiding news.
All right, it's time to check out what's happening with raiding news around World of Warcraft. Oh, hey, before we get to that, I just want to say one thing here, fellas. Mm-mm. We are coming up on our 1-year anniversary of having the CTR Guild. We're coming up on a 1 year.
Wow.
And I know that Turarts, she's our events coordinator for the guild. She's kind of the lead events person. And she's put together some stuff for the year-anniversary. That's what I'm calling it. That's not what she's calling it.
Hey,
she's probably calling it an actual anniversary. So if you guys are interested, head over to our forums, Signals Media, forums.signalsmedia.com. Go check out what's happening in the events section because there's a lot of stuff going on for the year anniversary for the guild. So that's kind of cool.
That's amazing.
Who knew that when we started this thing a year ago that we would have...
We would last a year.
Right. There's that. That we
would have more than 100 people.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That we have, eight co-guilds now, and
6,500 tunes in the guild.
That's crazy.
And then I think it's like 83 raid teams or something like that.
It's more than it's more than that. It's like 90. Wasn't it 92 when you were on set to heroic? And there's probably more than that now. And it's just like all this sorts of weirdness. So I'm like, ugh. All right, let's get into the news. So, by the way, check out those forums if you want to get involved with the events over there. All right. So, WoW Progress, they released some stats comparing rating in Siege of Orgrimmar to rating in Throne of Thunder. And at first, you might think those numbers are a little bit shocking, right? Dairies, what were some of these stats that were happening around with WoW Progress?
So they released numbers for normal kills, heroic kills, all this kind of stuff. But what we've got here is they've said for Throne of Thunder, the unique players that have killed a normal Throne of Thunder boss, a tier 15 boss, was 727,000 players. So that's all tunes, alts, things like that. Almost 750,000 round up.
That's
now
crazy.
They've taken a look at Siege of Orgrimmar, tier 16, and that number has dropped to 450,000. Yeah. Almost 300,000 fewer players have killed a normal boss in Siege of Orgrimmar than Throne of Thunder.
Right.
That's huge. But is that real?
Well, and we'll get into that in just a second.
Is it real?
They also did unique players for heroic bosses, right?
Yeah, so they've got for Throne of Thunder 272. Which is about 500,000 less from normal to heroic, which is common. And then Siege of Orgrimmar, 150,000, 100,000 drop.
Right,
almost half as many raiders have killed a heroic boss in Siege of Orgrimmar as opposed to a heroic boss in Throne of Thunder.
So, Colt, what is your initial response to seeing those numbers?
Blah, Inception, WoW Progress, blah. Is it real? Who knows?
Right.
Well, I think that it has to do possibly with two things. One, end of an expansion. Number two, maybe flex.
Yeah, maybe.
Wasn't flex.
And that was kind of my initial response too, right? I'm like, well, that doesn't sound right. I wanna see a total breakdown of LFR, flex, and normals and heroics, and I want to see it all. Right?
In that voice too. That's what was really creepy.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I tweeted it to Celestalon.
Right.
But no, it is kind of one of those things where you kind of want to see how those numbers break out, right? Right, Dairies?
Yeah, so I mean, this is a hard thing to look at right now because you're looking at Siege of Orgrimmar while it's still going on. Throne of Thunder already happened, and it was out for 6 months, 9 months, however long it was out. Siege of Orgrimmar has only been out for a few months now. So you're not really comparing apples to apples here. You're also not, they don't tell you how they've collected this. I mean, there are probably a significant number of people that are going back right now and killing heroic bosses in Throne of Thunder or normal bosses in Throne of Thunder that didn't do it before, that are now have Siege of Orgrimmar, LFR gear, Flex gear, stuff like that. So like they don't give enough information here. It does look shocking to begin with. You're like, wow, 300,000 less people have killed bosses. That's a huge number of active players that stopped killing things. Why?
Right.
But you don't get that. They also don't include flex numbers in here, which are probably just massive. Almost everyone has stepped into flex at some point.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we do know that Blizzard has said that they are really impressed with how flex has done, right? So they are like, oh my God, flex is amazing. And so, yes, you kind of you do want all those different numbers of all those different types of raids and stuff like that. But as it turns out, you guys are looking at it properly. That's good. Yeah. We're not comparing apples to apples. So let's do that. Let's take a look at the time frames and compare like the first 3 months of each of these runs, right? So we have for Tot normal, we have Jinrock, first guy, 29,000 guilds, and for Lei Shen it was 10.2 thousand guilds. For Siege normal, we begin with 25,000 guilds and end with 10.8 thousand guilds. So I mean, it's really
the same.
It's kind of comparable, right?
Comparing apples to apples, we're looking at almost exactly the same.
We're
numbers.
looking at apples.
Yeah.
Yes.
For number of players that have killed an apple in WoW,
yes,
it's almost exactly the same from Tot normal to Siege normal in the first 3 months.
Yeah. And
those are the numbers that matter more.
And the same thing with heroics too, because we had about 8,700 guilds for both the first boss in heroics for both Tot and Siege, and for the last boss it's about the same as well.
Yep.
It's very little difference. So this means that we're not losing raiders. So don't worry about it, guys.
Yeah, right. Because the first time you hear this, you're like, oh, WoW is dying. Oh, gosh. Oh, no. Well, actually, when you compare apples to apples, it's actually the same.
Right.
So we're not losing raiders.
Right. Exactly.
Crazy.
And another interesting stat of this thing that was released from WoW Progress was the active players in each section. Okay. And for Throne of Thunder, WoW Progress shows that 15 to 20% of players that killed at least one boss in Tot are not considered active now. So 15 to 20% are inactive. And for Siege, as you might expect, because it's still going on, 2 to 5% of players are considered inactive. Right? So that makes sense, right, Dairies?
Yeah, I mean, you get attrition, you get drop off, especially towards the end of an expansion.
But is this the right amount of what Blizzard has always called churn? The churn
probably
of players.
I mean, again, I'd like to know how they get these numbers, though. Are they looking at players or accounts? I've got tons of tunes that have killed bosses in Throne of Thunder, but have never killed anything in Siege of Orgrimmar. Those would be considered inactive now.
Right.
But I'm not inactive, I don't think. No, I'm here. So, I'd like to know how they got the numbers. But yeah, I mean, this is churn. This is 15 to 20% seems really high to me.
Yeah.
For something like that. But
yeah,
we're at the end of a long expansion, and a big one. So
sure. This seems high to me. Koltrane, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Jay Falcon in the chat room too was bringing up about how obviously we're still through the tier in Siege, but also Throne of Thunder is where people go for the legendary.
Right.
They got to go back. They got to go back to Throne of Thunder to get their legendary pieces. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's really just the end of an expansion. You know what I mean? It's
right.
We're at the end here. This is like, okay, you know what I mean? The new expansion's been announced. Everyone's waiting for it. We know that a lot of things are going to change, and it's the end of expansion blues. It's what happens.
Sure. Now, was there anything else that stood out for you guys on these stats? The one. What do you got there? Is that a cat?
What?
Cat. All right.
That's me.
It's Darius' cat on the screen.
Hey, what's
right
up?
Now. That's awesome.
Hey, Darius.
Hey, Darius.
That's me.
So that's distracting. All right. Was there anything else that stood out for you guys on stats for that they released? The one thing that I kind of liked was the Paragon's little line. Everybody else, all the other encounters had this nice little line where it's just this smooth line.
Nice hill.
Right,
nice
exactly.
progression.
And Paragon's was like, nope, you're not going to pass. And then all of a sudden, everybody passed. So it was like this S curve. It was really weird. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
That's RNG, baby.
That's more than RNG. That is something happening with Paragons. Was there anything that was going on with Paragons that you're aware of?
It's the way that the fight is tracked, and kind of how it starts, because it doesn't. Unless you're using something that we'll get into later with warcraftlogs.com, unless you're using a specific trigger, you don't know when the fight starts and when it ends. It's the same with like Nourishing or something like that. So they weren't tracking kills for a long time in the armory, and that was just a bug with the armory.
Oh, really? Okay.
But yeah,
right.
That's all.
Okay. All right. So maybe that wasn't anything then. But let's move on, and we'll talk stats for the next expansion for WoD. No, we're not calling it WoD.
We're not.
We're calling it Warlords.
Thank you. Jeez Louise. I'm going to do everything I can to stop that nonsense.
I'm calling it WoD.
WoD.
I have to do it. I don't know why. I just have to get your goat.
Get my goat. Well, that's
right.
an old phrase.
That's right. Well, I'm an old dude. It's all right.
You are an old man. Me too.
I am ancient. It's
all right.
So let's talk stats for Warlords. And it seems like there's a change for gems in Warlords. This is big. Koltrane, you want to say what it is?
This is big. Big news.
It's huge.
This is insane. So our good friend Celestalon tweeted this. 2 sentences. There are no more primary stat gems. Only secondary stat gems. What?
Mind blown.
What?
And please,
that's insane.
Right.
Seems fine to me.
And please remember,
Blaine, 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 Blaine.
Yes.
Blaine, Blaine, Blaine.
Yes.
Celestalon, Celestalon.
Yes.
Blaine, Celestalon, Celestalon. Blaine.
yeah. So
Woo!
Celestalon tweeted that news, and my jaw dropped.
Explosion.
But this kind of makes sense, right, Dairies?
Yeah, I mean, they've already said there's going to be a big focus on how gear is going to change like that, and why would you want to be wearing a piece of a chest piece, let's say, that you're healing in, and you've got int and mastery gems in, but then you need to go tank, and now you've got to swap all your gems out because your int and mastery gems don't work for a tank. I mean, you could use them, but you'd tank like Koltrane.
I'm awesome.
What?
My brewmaster can take a heroic like you wouldn't believe. Oh boy. Not anything else though. Go on.
So why would you need this? So yeah, I mean that makes a whole lot of sense. Is to do that. Put secondary stats on there, because secondary stats I think are going to mean quite a bit. Coming up. It
really does sound like secondary stats are going to mean way more. Although you won't have like the haste caps, and you won't have obviously you won't have hit cap anymore.
Well, let's explain this just a little bit more, just to clarify. So if let's say you got a paladin, right? So Darius, you got your pally, right? And you talked about tanking and healing. And you were like, oh, I dig the tank, I dig the heal. So if you're healing on your pally, it doesn't make sense to have your intellect gems and mastery, and then you switch your spec, which means your tanking tier or your holy healing chest piece will now become a tanking one. Yeah. And now you've got your int gems and mastery in there. Now you have to switch out your gems.
Yeah.
That's bad. So what they're saying is they're going to get rid of that int gem. So now it would just be mastery or haste.
Yeah.
And that will, of course, transfer from being a holy pally to a protection pally.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Words.
Just to clarify.
Words.
That's what they want. They want us to be able to swap, make it easy, not have to think about it, not have to have separate pieces of gear. So that this is a big step in that direction. They don't want this big fight over primary stats. So
right.
This is good.
So the bigger question, I think, for a lot of people out there is, What does this mean for JCs? What are jewel crafters going to do for warlords because they're taking away their gems? I mean, it's like they're taking away like half of the gems out there, right?
I don't think anyone's thinking that. I think that's the last thing people thought of.
Yeah, I think you made that up.
Yeah,
like,
that's crazy.
To cause controversy.
Yeah, right. Why are you trying to stir the pot?
Because I have a JC, and I'm kind of wondering what's going on with this whole thing.
You're still going to be making gems. I mean, what? Like,
yeah,
what?
with half as many gems, don't you think that there's going to be like, overstock on the auction house, and that all gems are going to be like 50 silver, and that's it?
Well, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, the chat room itself was an example of this. The second we announced this, everyone in the chat room's like, what about my JC, my jewel crafter? I mean, it's freaking out, right?
Right.
So I guess now you tell us, Zug, because you're a JC. Yeah, you know me. So basically what you're saying is now you're not going to have like int and haste gems. You would just have haste gems. So there's going to be a ton of haste gems, but not that like int and haste, right? So you're saying there's going to be a lot more of like one type of gem on the market. Is that what you're saying about the 50 silver?
I mean, they could do different combos, but it's all going to be secondary stats, right? So you're no longer going to have the gems that have a primary stat on them. You may have new combinations. They may be coming up with new combinations of different secondary stats for gemming.
Instead of intellect and spirit, you'll now get haste and spirit or mastery and spirit and things like. They'll do something. You'll probably just get different combos. So the number of gems, the massive number of gem combos will still be the same. They'll just be making different ones. So
whoa. So are you saying we're gonna have like haste and crit gems, like
maybe
haste and crit?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think Zug's making a mountain out of a molehill here. I think it's ridiculous.
I'm just trying to ask the questions here because we got to follow this logic, right?
That's right.
But I also think that there needs to be something else for jewel crafters other than gems. And we've seen it before with the beginning of expansions that you can make the ring, and then sometimes they update it and sometimes they don't. So like I think in Cataclysm you can make the rings to start out raiding, and then again at the end of Cataclysm. For Mists, they did it all at the beginning, and I don't think they did it again.
No.
For JCs.
They have mounts.
And
JCs
I think
make mounts now.
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't do you any good in a raiding situation.
But they are crafters of jewels. They need to be about gems, right? It needs to be about gems.
It needs to be about gems and about what can go in those, or what those can go in, right? So rings and necks and whatever else. So I think that there needs to be a big push from Blizzard to be able to make all these secondary stats in rings. Because I think with the new changes for gear, right, we're gonna have to move to being able to make sure that for druids, say, because I know druids, you might want a haste set for your resto side of things, but then you want a crit set for the starry chicken set. So
what about?
I hope not, man.
What about a jewel crafting doohickey? Like, blacksmithing have belt buckles, something for jewel crafting that you make it, you put it on the auction house, it costs a lot to make, but when you use it, it allows you to take the gems out of gear without destroying them or something like that.
That would be nicer. I mean, that would be better. Go ahead, finish your sentence.
Something that only jewel crafters can make and has a huge resale value because people want that, but I don't know. I'm just thinking. Like, is that what you want here? I don't.
No, what I want is I would really love for JCs to be able to make these off pieces, not the actual armor pieces, right? So you don't make the armor pieces, but for the non-armor pieces like the rings and trinkets and neck pieces and so on and so forth, make sure that those remain updated for every raid tier, right? So then you can jump in and you can say, nope, I have, something that will get me started in this raid tier for, like, say, crit or for haste or for mastery or whatever you need it for, so that you can jump into the next raid and be at least okay for starting. You know what I mean?
Right. Kind of like those relics for the with the
for paladins.
inscription.
Right.
Oh, those relics.
Yeah, like inscriptionists and scribers could make those relics, but it was only for that one tier. So you're saying that those relics would then be updated for each tier.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
I think they need to do something like that because it seems like JCs and enchanters and other folks have been kind of like not getting updates regularly, and I think they really need to think about these professions as we move forward. So
yeah,
I hate that. I hate having to rely on a crafter to make me a piece of gear for current raid content. You know, them having to find the mats or me having to pay a ton of gold for it or something like that. I don't like that at all.
Well, but they are taking away a lot of gem slots, and now they're taking away primary stats from gems. And so, I mean, they're kind of, they're reducing everything down. And it makes sense to do so, I think. I think that there's a lot, there are way too many options out there for folks, and it doesn't make sense. It's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, aren't they doing the same for enchanters and other inscriptionists and things like that? They're taking away things. So, I mean, why build it back up again? You don't need to. Make it easier.
I think you need
what's wrong with only having 10 things to make gold on instead of 1,700 that are confusing and waste of time.
Then that's all that there's going to be. Then you're going to have, like, if it's just 10 things, then everyone is just going to make 10 things,
and then nobody will make any money.
And then nobody will make any money.
But if everybody needs those 10 things, they're still going to sell.
But for like 50 silver, like, you know what I mean? Like now it's like there's so much variety that people can like corner a certain market or do this or that. But if it's only 10 things, I'm just saying JC's, baby, they that might not be good. And by the way, the chat room's exploding. The word is scribes.
Yes,
I think
it's
we are saying
yes,
inscriptionators or I don't
Scribblers.
know. Scribblers. They're called scribblers.
Yes.
But
They are called scribes.
My biggest thing is one of the things that I hated about the mage. Now, I can't finish that sentence.
Hey,
hold on a
what?
minute. Whoa, I'm sorry.
What?
Look, I bleed
I like
blue.
where this is going.
I'm a mage.
Hold on.
I'm a mage through and through. But when I switched specs from fire to frost, fire, secondary stats was all crit. Frost was all haste, like haste and int. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that in Warlords, the secondary stats, there isn't such a huge gap between the two. So if, like, I'm switching specs or whatever, that I don't have to change my gems as much, because if I couldn't go from frost to fire without spending, 2,100 gold to re-gem everything. You know what I mean? I hated that. It cost a fortune. I just want to switch specs and try out fire for this next fight,
Sure.
So I'm hoping that the ratio is like closer. You know what I mean? Like there's certain classes out there, I think it might be hunters or something, and you guys would know, where like haste and crit are like super close. Or like I think like warlocks, like haste and mastery. It's like you can go either one. Like it's fine. There's such a close, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that way you can just gem once, switch specs, and you're still fine.
Right. Well, and I think with some of the other gear changes are more of, dealing with the math of everything, right? So we're not going to be seeing haste caps or haste. Well, I guess caps is the right word for warlords, because they're changing the way that the math works, right? So they're changing the way that the system will read these different breakpoints, since we don't have reforging anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And since we are going to be more reliant on gear pieces to give us these stats, they're making it a little bit easier for us by saying, well, you don't need to have, X amount of haste or X amount of crit anymore. Now, just the more crit you get, the better you will be.
Right.
So it's not going to be like you need to have 27% crit. It'll be like, well, you just want a lot. So if you're switching out, if you have a gem in one of your main armor pieces, you can still have that there. It may not be the best, but it can help you along the way. That's the hope anyway, right?
And like you said too, we got to remember that there's going to be fewer gem slots on gear as well.
Right. Which means that JCs are really going to be struggling for each and every piece of gold that they can get.
Well, come on, JCs make a fortune. Come on,
Now,
JCs,
now,
you guys
maybe.
make a fortune.
Maybe.
Now it's time to kick back and let the scribinators or whatever start making money. I don't know.
Yeah,
Scribblers. That's what it was.
Scribblers. Any
JCs always do well.
Dairies, what? Any final thoughts here? What's going on?
No, I think you're greedy. That's all.
What? I'm not greedy.
I agree. I
just want to make sure that scribes or scribblers and JCs in every profession has a role to play in rating.
Says the guy who, over the last 3 expansions, has managed to make all of about 3,000 gold using his profession classes.
No, it's not even that much.
I'm like, that's actually pretty high. I'm like 300.
Yeah, that's pretty high. I've made most of my gold off of questing and off of the backs of people like you guys that actually do stuff.
That's not a negative, Darius.
No.
That's a. I'm like, wow, Doug, way to go.
Yeah,
that's really impressive.
Right.
You did good, buddy.
Right. I'm just I'm just stealing from the guild bank. That's all I do. But I don't. I don't. All right.
To go check the guild banks.
We have other people that manage that stuff, not me. Anyway. Okay, so there was something else to switch it up even more. Let's talk warlords still, but there was actually a survey that came out for the next expansion, and not only did they talk like price points and stuff like that for the next expansion, and I think we're talking about $39 or $49, which is not bad, but they also talked about a character boost to 90. This kind of got wrapped into the survey. And it's, would you pay to boost a character to level 90?
Bum, bum, bum!
That's right.
Barot.
That's right. So, would you pay to boost a character to level 90? We're going to get one free for warlords. I think they may be thinking, well, we'll have one warlord price set for the free boost to 90, and we'll have one without, maybe. Or maybe they'll offer a free boost to 90 in the store? I don't know. So, Koltrane, what would you pay to bring a tune to level 90?
Well, the first question is, would you pay?
Oh, would you pay? Okay, let's.
And the answer is yes, absolutely. Without a doubt.
Right.
I would definitely 100% pay for a boost to 90. And I would. I'm just being honest. I would. Because there's certain classes that I want to play. Like a rogue. I know Darius hates his rogue. But I would love to jump in there. You know, I'm now starting to become a melee guy. And I dig it, baby. I dig it. And if I could get one guy to 90 and just, you know, not eat for a couple of weeks, that's worth it. You know, if I could use that money and get him to 90 and then just not eat, I think that's perfect.
Right.
So I would just to be honest, I would in a heartbeat. And it's very varied in the chat room. Some are saying yes, some are saying no.
Right.
You, the loyal listener, are listening and you're yelling yes or you're yelling no. But for me, it's a yes. I would in a heartbeat.
Darius, how about you? Would you pay for a level? You pay for mounts. Of course you're going to pay for a 90.
This is a fair question for me because I paid $15 for a hat. And let's see, there's 16 pieces of gear on a tune. So one hat, $15 times 16, $240 for level 90. Yeah, I'd pay that.
You're out of your mind.
I don't know if I pay $240 for a level 90.
Let's just slow down.
Let's slow down.
If it was $30, yeah, I'd pay for it. If it was $20, I'd pay for it. If it was $10, I'd buy all of them.
Right.
I'd say probably 30 or 40 is my limit there, but yeah, I would pay for a level 90. I don't have any tunes left. I think I have a rogue and a DK, and that's it. That aren't 90, but if you
if you switch servers for whatever reason, then
so I mean, if it's $40, that is cheaper than transferring a tune over to another server. And I can do another 5 levels or something.
Right.
That's a great point, actually, because it costs $52 to transfer a character. 55 to not only switch them to a new server, but also to change their faction.
Right.
I just did it. It was actually 63 with tax for me.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. For my priest, yeah.
Well, you're also paying for the Mellorews, the WAD Mellorews. You're paying for that too.
I would pay for this. It would be cheaper for me to buy another Warlord, another WAD expansion box with the free 90.
Wait. I thought you said we weren't calling it WAD.
No, you said that. I said
Koltrane said that.
Well, I think I was so thrown. You guys don't know what Mellorews is, do you?
No.
You have no idea. Zug, do you know what Mellorews is?
No.
Anyone in the chat room know Mellorews?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, look it up and then go back.
I don't even know how to spell it. How do you spell it?
I'm not going to derail with Mellorews, but you should know what that means. I'm starting to wonder if that's a strictly Los Angeles thing.
Yeah, it might be an LA thing.
Mellorews. All right. So anyway,
it's a Holly weird thing.
Oh, jeez, you're right. I'm not gonna lie. Right.
If they're gonna sell Warlords at $49,
yeah,
and they're gonna charge me $63 to transfer a character from one server to another, it's cheaper for me to just go buy another copy of Warlords and get a 90 at this point.
Right.
So, like, why wouldn't I just do that? So they've got, if they're gonna do that, and they're gonna give they're gonna give 90s. For purchase, it's got to be under $49 or $39.
That's some great logic there. That's really smart.
That's amazing.
That's some good logic there, Dairies.
We have a smart cat on this show.
Hey!
Look out. He's looking for his cat now. He's looking for his cat. Very sorry. I didn't mean to derail you.
But yeah, I mean, if they're going to give you a free 90 with a Warlords box, buying Warlords, they're going to have to give you the option to buy a 90. Because otherwise people are just going to go buy more copies of Warlords. They're going to get Refer a Friend. They're going to get all this other stuff on top of it too for $39.
Right.
Well,
that'll boost their sales, right? They'll be able to say we sold 50 million copies of World of Warcraft.
Yeah, and
still
then
have the same amount of players. They just have more 90s now.
Yeah. 50 million copies of Warlords, but we only have 10 million subscribers. We lost 40 million somewhere in between the store and their house.
That would throw the stockholders way off.
Yeah.
So, Koltrane, how much would you pay for a level 90?
Wow. Well, Baby Hercules in the chat room, you got a heck of a future, buddy. I mean, you're Baby Hercules. But he said $35.
The new Kevin Sorbo, if you're going to go way back.
Baby Hercules. But he said $35, and that sounds, I mean, with that knowledge bomb that Dairies just dropped, that makes sense. I'd say, 35 or 30 for 90. I'd do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds a little crazy when I say it out loud, but,
if you pay $25 for a mount, I don't see why you wouldn't pay at least that for a level 90. I mean, that's got to be worth a little bit more. I mean, yes, you still have to level. I mean, you still have to, do all the 10 levels going up to for Warlords or WAD. Either way. But yeah, I mean, that's not too bad.
No,
I'd do that. Because a lot of people, I mean, you can't really brag about how many level 90s you have now. Like, that's out the window. Right. That's just,
Right.
But I've got 5 now, so I can brag now. I've got 5. But like there are a lot of classes that I would really like to play, and I'd like to play in Warlords. I'd like them to see that, like the Rogue I was saying. So I don't know, man. Personally, I would do it. And if it's like 30, 35, yeah, I'd do that.
Cool.
Oh, show.
Now, do you think that there's going to be a big fallout from folks I'm guessing on the forums, anything can happen, but do you think that there's going to be any sort of fallout if they do make that a possibility?
Darius, go ahead. I've got an answer, but Darius, go ahead.
I don't think so. I think you're not paying to win. You're paying to get 10 levels within max, but you're not paying to get a max level character. You're not paying for gear or anything like that. Leveling to 90 at this point, especially in Warlords, is so trivial. I mean, with Refer a Friend, you can get to 85 in like 6 hours if you're quick, 10 hours if you're slow right now. I mean, it's trivial at this point to get this high. So, if people want to complain about, oh, you got an instant 90 or something like that, or we used to say you eBayed your character, you've got an eBay character, and people that would buy them.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing, but it's just so trivial at this point. You level so fast now that you're getting abilities faster than you know what to do with them. So you don't even know how to play your class till you get to max level anyway.
Yeah, no, that is actually very true, because on my priest, I realized that I finally had like all these different spells, and I'm like, I've heard of these. These might be something I want to put into voodoo or something like that, so that I can use them. But I still haven't. It's like I'm just smiting. That's all I'm doing.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people are going to complain. I'm sure there's going to be uproar if they do decide to do this. But I just don't think I can. At this point, I haven't heard their arguments, but I don't know if I can see a valid argument for not wanting this.
Sure.
Yeah. I think there'd be a giant uproar, and everyone will say, "Oh, wow, it's catering to the casuals," and they themselves will be like, I'd like to play a warrior. Boy, 90 levels, that's a lot that's going to take a while. Even regardless, I'm all right. Maybe I'll do it myself. Like, in reality, everyone's going to freak out at first, but then when you actually get down to it, we're going up to level 100 now, man. 100.
Yeah.
That's a long way to go from level 1.
That's
it's like 99 levels.
It's like 99 more levels. So
99, right.
Yes.
Right.
In reality, I think that, there'll be big uproar at first, but then when even the same people that are screaming and yelling, they're probably going to do it because they're going to realize, well, I always wanted to play this class. I always wanted to play a warlock.
Right.
And I 99.
And think about it, you could actually be saving money, really. If they price it right, you could actually be saving money, because think of all the pizza that gets delivered to your house while you're leveling, and so you're saving all that money as well. So
that's true. But as someone just pointed out in the chat room, I dread the LFRs at max level when everyone buys a level 90 tank and then jumps right into LFR.
Well, it's gonna be just like, somebody's gonna buy a level 90 whatever, and then they're gonna go run dungeons for an hour or two. They're just gonna jump into dungeons. Screw it, I'm not gonna level the traditional way, and they're gonna be horrible, right? So healers, it'll be just like when DKs came around, right? It'll be just like then. So
that was a little rough.
Yeah,
right.
There will be no shortage of tanks. You won't be sitting in a queue for 45 minutes waiting for a tank to go. Right.
But I wouldn't worry so much about LFR in Warlords of Draenor, because we might be getting a new tool.
Ooh, segue. I like that. Good job.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Look at that.
So
that was good. That was like
yeah. I'm just kind of wondering if we want to get into this week or not.
Oh, you want to save this for next week?
We might want to save this for next week, because this is kind of a meaty topic. We're talking about the new group finder tool, and what that could mean for a lot of different raiders out there, a lot of different styles. Because if we get into this conversation, then we're gonna get all up in LFR's business.
Well, and now you just teased it, though, so that's not good.
So listen next week. We'll get into it next week.
There you go.
Yeah,
how about that?
Have
How about
patience.
that?
People have a lot of patience. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially on the internet.
Oh yes, huge amount of patience.
No, but I mean, the LFG thing, the looking for group finder, they're reworking it so that it's going to work better. What does that mean for all the different forms of raiding out there? And I think that a lot of people can think about that realistically right now.
Yes.
But we'll talk about it next week. I think that'll be a good point, and I think that it'll be a conversation that will go on for a while.
Yes. I mean, they're going to make LFR easier. All right, moving on, which is good. But anyway, go on, moving on.
Right.
So on that note, though, if we're gonna tease that, we should at least give them some information. I looked up Melrose.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a very local property tax. Thank you, Colt. So
it is local
neighborhood property tax, like an HOA fee.
Well, yes, I know that, but I thought that this was like spread across the U.S.
Oh no, I'd never heard of it before.
But I'm glad that we're taking the time to talk about Melrose versus the raid and group finder.
That'll take a while. So
that'll take a while.
That's good.
And we'll get to that. We'll get to that next week. But I do need to bring up our sponsor. I do need to do that. And our sponsor is Netflix.
Woo!
That's right. And you can get a free 30-day trial just by going to ctrdeal.com/Netflix. And I want to tell you about something that I saw recently. As you can tell from my recently watched here, I watched The Grey last night.
Oh, I hear that's violent.
It's a little violent.
I hear it gets really out of hand.
There are wolves, and they are angry.
They are really angry.
But it's much better than, say, Sharknado, which is also available on Netflix. But because there is no tornado that's whipping these dogs around and having them eat people. No, True. It's not that. It's just that they are very angry wolves.
I have one. When you don't feed her, yeah, she.
But it was pretty good. It was not bad at all. It was not necessarily what I expected, and the ending was intense. It was an intense movie.
Are they as scary as like that wolf in Neverending Story that was like in the cave?
Actually,
against Atreyu.
It was funny because they actually they had like this alpha wolf that was black, and it reminded me so much of that. Like that just that fear that you had as a kid when you were man, it was crazy.
That was so scary, that wolf. He was like talking to him in the cave. Oh my gosh.
I know.
You just see his eyes and then his teeth.
And Liam Neeson actually talked to the dude in a cave. No, he didn't talk to the wolf.
So you're saying that Liam Neeson is Atreyu in
yes, he's Atreyu. He's Atreyu.
Oh my gosh.
But this is a great wintertime movie because it takes place in Alaska in the middle of the most freezing cold stuff ever.
Wouldn't you want to watch a summer movie?
Maybe. Maybe it's a bad plan. No, it's good for you guys. It's good for you guys because you guys don't understand what's going on right now in the rest of the U.S.
I don't know. It's 75 here tomorrow. I know what you mean about cold. It's freezing here.
Jerk.
But go on.
Jerk. No, but it's very, very cold there. That's all I'm gonna say. And Liam does a great job. He always does. I was thinking it was gonna be like Taken 4, 2, whatever.
But in the woods?
Speaking of Mr. Liam, there's this great clip you can watch on YouTube. It is 10 hours of him staring at you from that movie where he just stares at you and it's on a loop and it's in HD.
Oh, man.
And it's 10 hours of it. You can find it on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
So awesome.
Wow.
It's actually from the bits from The Grey. So
people are so funny.
We should talk about WoW now.
All right, let's do it. But first, I want to just remind people, supporting our sponsors does support the show. So please go to ctrdeal.com/Netflix. Is that okay? Is that okay that I did that? All right. Let's move it along to some Leading the Raid.
Leading the Raid.
All right, when we can, we take a look into leadership issues for raiders and raid leaders everywhere. And this week, we're actually going to take a special look at some ways that we can improve our raiding and raid leading as we move into 2014. New Year's resolution type of stuff. I'm going to be a better raider or raid leader, whatever your role is, or if you want to expand into raid leading. We've got some. We're going to talk about it. We'll talk about it. Yeah. So let's talk about some ways that we can first just be a better raider and really kind of try to get the first step of it is about knowledge. Is that right, Dairies? Knowledge is power?
Yes. Yeah. That wasn't the G.I. Joe thing. No, that was
I don't know. It's
anyway.
The more you know.
Yeah, as a raider, the more you know, the better. So it starts with your class. Know your class inside and out. Know what all of your buttons do, not just the ones that are mentioned on Icy Veins or any of those things. Know what all of them do, because there could be a situation where you need to use a button that you've never used before or never thought to use before. Know what they all do, so that you come completely prepared that way. Know your class inside and out.
Now, where are some good resources that people can learn their class and learn kind of the ins and outs of what they need to know for rating, or just for, just in case they need to know? What resources do you guys use?
MMO Champion has great class forums now. Elitist Jerks is back a little bit. you've got Icy Veins, you've got Convert to Raid 2.
Maybe. Maybe.
You've got all that. You've got your spell book. Just go in and read every single one of your spells. Just know what they do.
Right.
And specific class forms, like how to priest for priests and things like that. I don't know if other classes know how to spell. So I assume there's other class forms out there. But
right. And I know that Hunter's Warcraft Union is kind of. I think those guys are shutting down now. So for hunters, that resource,
really?
it's still around. I mean, you can still grab the podcast, and it's still very helpful, I think, for a lot of different reasons. But I think that's right. I'm not sure. But you can check out Warcraft Hunters Union and check out what they've got now. We've got some friends that do some stuff like that, right, Colt? As far as teaching people their classes.
Absolutely. Preach Gaming, like on the video side of things, Preach Gaming, that's the name of his YouTube channel. He's got some great guides for pretty much every single class in the game. Some great instructional stuff. He does one video where he explains each ability and how to do it and how the rotation looks, and then he does actual gameplay. In fact, now I think he kind of rolls it all into one. That's one resource that I use. In fact, learning about the Brewmaster, I use that, but I also used, believe it or not, Final Boss TV as well. Their focus is on classes. So I went and I watched their Brewmaster guide, and they had the guys from Midwinter and Scrubbusters on and listened to them, and these are top players. And they were talking about their particular class and spec and what they needed to do. So I find for me, when I'm learning a new thing, I go visual first. You know what I mean? And kind of get into it that way. And like, oh, okay. And then I go into the like the icy-veins.com and kind of go through it that way as well. So it depends. Some people like to read. Some people like to watch.
Yep.
So.
And there are lots of different YouTube videos out there. I mean, we were talking about Eat Mo Pie.
Eat Mo Pie is great.
Well. So, if you're looking around, I mean, YouTube is a great resource for a lot of folks to kind of learn more about their class. And we also need to know about not just about how to play your class, but about what your class and what your spec needs in the way of gear and stats and all those kind of things. So. One of the resources that I want to throw out there is Ask Mr. Robot. They are phenomenal when it comes to being able to change stats on the fly. They've got an add-on that works really, really slick, so you don't have to think about it too much, which is maybe why Blizzard is changing things around a little bit. Who knows? But yeah, those guys are great. Any other places that you guys go to discuss specifically stats or gear? Any other places?
I mean, for priests, again, it's how to priest. Those forums, most class-specific forums will cover gear, best in slot, but also how to reforge it and gem it and those kind of things. Haste breakpoints or crit breakpoints or whatever it is. Check those out. I think Icy Veins does a little bit of that, but they don't get too deep into it.
Right.
But Ask Mr. Robot's pretty good place to start.
Yeah, and same thing for MMOC class forums. Those
man. And that for MMO Champion, I mean, props to those guys. This expansion especially, those class forums have become like a central hub of great class info. They really stepped it up in Mists of Pandaria. So really excited to see what they're going to do with Warlords. But they really, really kicked it up a notch. They did a great job.
Exactly. And then we also have to know our role in raiding. Not just the buttons to push, but exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And I want to give props to Icy Veins, icy-veins.com, because those guys have actually done quite a bit with determining, what different classes and different specs need to do during these encounters for Siege of Orgrimmar. When did they start? Darius, when did they start that? Did they start that at Throne? Or was it before? I can't remember. But they
I don't remember either. Yeah,
but they are doing a lot with what certain classes and certain specs need to do within these encounters. So that's always important.
It's very important to know, if you're a healer, don't just watch a Fat Boss video and assume you're going to know everything, because they're not going to cover the intricacies of what you have to do as a healer. They're going to say, "Oh, there's lots of damage here,but Icy Veins does a really good job," and
they'll probably swear a lot too.
Yes. There's that other guy. I can't think of his name now. He does the really long, like hour-long videos.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember either.
Gabesta.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he does amazing role specific videos. He'll do a 5 or 10 minute video just for healers, and he'll talk about not only when the damage is coming, but how you can help mitigate some of it, how you can use cooldowns here. I mean, just amazing information, and that is so invaluable for knowing your role, because it's you might watch a video from a tank's perspective and you're gonna have no idea what to do as a healer or a DPS or something like that. So know that going in. Be prepared to do your role in the raid, not just know everything that's going on. That's so important.
Right.
Make sure you know what you're doing, not what everyone else is doing, but what you're doing first.
Right.
Well,
And
then I have a question for you guys. So we've been talking about read up info, find out information about your class. Where do you guys go to learn about the boss fights, the boss strategies for each one?
Well, I do a couple of different things. First of all, the Dungeon Journal, I use it. I actually do use it.
What?
I use it in conjunction with other things, though. When I'm reading about stuff, I go to Icy Veins because I do look for that role specific stuff as well as overall fight mechanics and things like that. Fat Boss guides are great video guides. I'm trying to remember who else that I use a lot. Preach is he does some of that sometimes.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah, not a lot. I think he stopped doing that actually.
Icy Veins usually does like an early one.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Dairies, how about you?
Icy Veins is great when you're first seeing a boss. I mean, most of the times I'm seeing a boss is right when the patch hits.
Yeah.
So Icy Veins will usually take a look at it on the PTR or something like that. So theirs is good because you basically get what's in the Dungeon Journal, but it's in a searchable format. I can search through it and I can hover over things and it shows me the Wowhead tooltip and all that kind of stuff. That makes it really easy between polls to look at something that I've got a question about or whatnot. Icy Veins is great there. Most of the other sites haven't updated by then. Occasionally you can go to MMO Champion, and if you're stuck on a specific mechanic, let's say I can't even think of anything off the top of my head right now that this would be good for. But if you're stuck on a specific mechanic on a boss, Google that mechanic or that ability's name and MMO Champion or something like that. Or, go to the MMO Champion site and search for that. And there's a pretty good chance someone else has been stuck on that too. And they've asked the question in the MMO Champion forums, how do we deal with this? This is our comp, blah, blah, blah. And you'll get 10 people that will answer, 4 of which will say stop being bad. But 6 will provide...
Right.
Stop being bad.
Yeah. It is the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
6 will provide good information, though, and they'll be like, well, maybe you should do this, or this is what worked for us. Right. And that's better than any website, because Icy Veins or any of the others aren't going to have that. They're just going to tell you how to deal with it. These guys are going to tell you tricks that they used and that worked really well.
Right.
Colt,
how about you? Where do you go for encounter stuff?
Well, there's a secret that a lot of like raiders and like hardcore raiders know about, and it's not usually shared. And that is known as ETT, effective toilet time. Now, this is something that we've talked about in the past, but basically I use Icy Veins for ETT, effective toilet time, which means when you're on the toilet, what better time to read about the new boss?
Right.
So ETT, effective toilet time, is key to being an effective raider. So think about that in 2014.
Think about you
good ETT time.
Oh boy.
At the very least, you should, going into a new fight, have read the entire Icy Veins page. I know there's a lot of words there, but
there are a lot of words.
It is so helpful. And not just understanding how or figuring out how a boss works and knowing how to do everything going in, but at least you have seen the mechanic, you have read it, and you recognize what it is. And going into a fight, you might not remember exactly how it works, but you're going to say, oh, right, I read something about this and it's bad or it's good or, it's a stacking thing or something like that. Do that. Look at that, because it's going to give you the tooltips. It's going to give you the icons. It's going to give you all that stuff.
Right.
Read that and have it in your head.
Yep. Well, and
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll say something. I saw it in chat, and I just want to bring this up. Somebody said LFR, and I really don't think that works for a lot of different reasons. But first of all, the mechanics have changed. So if you're going into normal and heroic rating, and you want to base it off of something, something that somebody has already done on the PTR or in-game and has that to show you in normal mode or in heroic mode, whatever your mode is. It doesn't matter. But LFR is not going to be the thing that shows you mechanics.
No,
it hasn't been about that. And this is probably going to be part of our discussion next week when we get into LFR and where it needs to be. But especially in Warlords, if we're talking about Warlords, LFR might be just a cakewalk, where they really take out a lot of the mechanics. And if that's the case, then you're never going to know what that is like. Right now, what you can say is you can say flex, but at the same time, do you really want to go into flex for the first time without knowing boss mechanics and just be kind of thrown to the wolves?
Yeah, all LFR, if you've never seen an encounter before, all LFR is going to do is give you bad habits.
Yeah, it has that possibility anyway, yeah.
Don't use that. Don't, go into flex if you need to, or go into LFR with your 25-man raid group if you're doing 25 mans, or maybe 2 10s or something like that. But don't go in alone and expect to understand how a mechanic completely works from LFR. It's not going to work the same. It's not going to hit as hard. Most of the people there are either going to ignore it or know some way to cheese it or something. You don't want to get into that bad habit of using it that way. There are better ways to understand the mechanics, including just wiping on it in normals or flex or heroic, whatever you're doing.
That would be preferred to LFR in my opinion as well. Yeah,
I mean the one of the biggest things people don't seem to understand still when it comes to raiding is it's not free loot. You're going to wipe, and you're going to wipe a lot, and that's not a bad thing. Wiping, wiping over and over and over again because someone can't figure it out or whatnot or something like that is not good. But wiping just because you've never seen it before or you're learning it is what it's supposed to be. That's what raiding is. That's what makes it exciting. So understand that you're going to wipe 100 times before you kill it, but learn something. Every one of those wipes, learn something new, figure something out, have something click.
Yep.
That's what it's there for. And use those intelligently.
Right. Koltrane, you were going to say something before I busted in about LFR. What were you going to say?
Evil Ducky in the chat room just came up with the slogan for ETT. Learn from your wipes. Yeah.
I like that.
Effective toilet time. Learn from your wipes.
Oh my goodness!
That was good. That was good. We're gonna have to use that. We're gonna have to copyright that.
Oh, Evil Ducky, you're awesome. That's brilliant.
that is pretty awesome. All right, let's move on to how we prepare for raids. Okay, other than the knowledge base, right? So, Darius, what are some tips that you have for raiders that want to come prepared?
So obvious things, food, flasks, potions, enchants, gems, reforge. Less obvious to some people for some reason, come repaired. Visit a gear repair.
Wait. Come prepared? What?
Visit a gear repair before you show up. Don't be that person that the first wipe in, you say, oh, my gear's broken. Do we have a bot? Oh.
That's only happened to me a couple of times, man.
Every week.
It's not every week.
Every week, Zug.
It's not.
Yep.
You haven't.
Oh, I know. I watch the stream every week.
Oh, boy.
Come prepared with stuff. You don't know, but come optimistic. You're going to get some new pieces of gear. You know what gear you need off of bosses. If you know you're going to get a new chest piece, bring a chest enchant. Bring the gems for that. Bring whatever you need so that you're not having to leave between bosses or being that person that's like, oh, can I have 5 minutes so I can go and enchant this?
Or the guy that during break time, let's say you have like a 5-minute break and you go, okay, well, I'll just run to wherever and get this enchanted and gemmed real quick, and and then that 5-minute break turns into a 10-minute break, and everybody's waiting on your sorry butt to come back through the portal.
Yeah.
That's no good. Koltrane, any other ways that we should come prepared to raid?
What you're saying is exactly right. One thing I'm looking forward to in Warlords is less gemming, less enchanting, which means when I get a new piece of gear, I can wear that piece of gear.
I know. That's
Really
awesome.
looking forward to that. That you don't have to try and do it on the break, and then you end up coming back late.
Right.
But everything you guys have mentioned is great. I mean, that all makes sense as long as the big thing is strat. But yeah, just have an idea if you can. Flasks, feasts. If you've got your DPS cooldown potions, you know what I mean? Have your stuff ready to go. Take it seriously, because those 9 other guys, if you're in a 10-man, they're trying to take it seriously as well. You don't want to let the team down by you being the guy that doesn't have the stuff. Like, we're all in this together, so be prepared.
Right. And the other thing that I want to bring up is something about communication, because I think that communication is really important, not just during the raid. I mean, we'll talk about that in just a second, but let's talk about before the raid, as we get ready for the raid, right? So as we get ready for the raid, some things that you might want to consider is to have a team page on a forum somewhere, or, communicate through a group email, or through something for your mobile device, which would be like GroupMe or Kick, or even texting. I mean, texting charges may apply, but whatever. But but I think communication before the pull, before you guys even group up, is so important for raiding, because you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Are we going to be saving the lockout this week? What do I need to be prepared for this week? What does the raid leader say that I need to know for this week? Do I need to know what Thok is doing? Are we doing something different? What's going on?
Yeah.
All that
Communicate.
kind of stuff. Exactly.
And it gets you fired up as a team when everyone's like, all right, we're going to totally take down Gary tonight. You guys ready? Yeah. Like it gets that sense of team and the hype leading up to the raid night.
Absolutely.
Raid night should be something that you're looking forward to, something that you're pumped about. And that kind of texting or the GroupMe thing, the KIK thing is great. Just keep in mind, East Coast players, that, when you text at 9 a.m. your time, it's 6 a.m. for those on the West Coast. Dairies, I'm sleeping.
Always keep that in mind. Now he's in Seattle. Now
now you are.
Now you are. Before,
I'm getting text messages at 6 o'clock in the morning like, hey, guys, what's up? Can't wait for tonight. I'm like, what?
I'm never awake at 9 a.m.
Just keep that in mind, that there are time zones and all that stuff that exists.
Yes, please. But let's talk about attitude a little bit, Dairies.
Yeah, I would say
I want to talk to you about your attitude.
This goes toward coming prepared. Coming prepared is coming prepared with the right attitude. Be prepared to not only kill bosses, but to wipe for the next 3 or 4 hours. Be prepared to contribute in a meaningful way. Don't show up, unless this is how your raid does it, don't show up completely drunk. Don't show up with 10 other things going on where you can't focus on the game. Don't show up unless you can give 100%, because you're not hurting yourself as much as you are the 9 or 24 other people that are there, waiting for you or counting on you. Be ready, be upbeat, be the raider you want everyone else to be. You have it written here, be honest with your performance. If you're not doing well, don't shrug it off. Don't be like, oh, I'm having a bad night. See what you can do to fix it. Sure. If you don't understand a mechanic, ask. And it is so much better to spend 30 seconds before a fight asking a question about something you don't know than to wipe 10 times because you think, oh, I'll just figure it out as we go.
Right.
Or something like that.
And Koltrane, you're actually really good at that. You're actually really good at asking the questions. I think that, what I find is that if one person has a question, more people are going to have a question on that same thing, or may have a question on that same thing. And I think you're really good about that. I do.
Well, thank you. I think what you're saying is that I don't understand anything.
No. You're just really good at asking the questions that are on people's mind, I think.
Right. I mean, because that's the big thing is communication. That's classic. I mean, that applies to everything in life is communication. Mm-hmm. But really trying to nail down, okay, now what exactly are we doing here? When this happens, we're doing this. And then when this happens, we're doing this. Sometimes I would ask a question. I might know the answer, but I'm just saying it to clarify it for everyone on the raid team, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Saying something is always better than saying nothing.
Right.
Yeah, there's no dumb question. There's only mages.
What?
Oh,
Wait, what?
man. Oh, man. I think I have to play this then.
Mage genius.
Yeah.
We gotta say something positive about mages after that.
Just ask though. If you've got a question, ask. If you wipe, ask yourself what could I have done better there? Could I have helped off heal a little bit more? Could I have clicked a button in a different spot? Could I have stood in a different spot? Could the person next to me have stood in a different spot? Ask that question every time. Every wipe is meant to be a learning experience. If you aren't asking yourself that question after every wipe, you're not doing everything you can to help your raid team.
Right.
And also keep in mind, here's an example. If you, let's say you're playing a rogue, if you are trying to DPS the boss, but you're always having to stand in poo to do it, and then you're dying, ask the tank, hey man, do you think you could pull the boss just farther over during that transition phase so I don't have to stand in poo? Like little things like that, it's okay to say and to ask, and that'll help your performance, that'll help the performance of the raid.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about add-ons for raiders out there, and this is for not for raid leaders, but for raiders, for the rest of the team. What are some things that we can say as far as add-ons go, add-ons that we use all the time, add-ons that we really like? And Koltrane, maybe I'll start with you.
Deadly boss mods. And it has nothing to do with my voice being one of the warnings in the raid warning. It has nothing to do with that.
No.
That you can go to raid warnings and then select Colt or Koltrane, and that, it had nothing to do. I'm not pointing that out or anything.
No.
One of my biggest geek out moments of my entire life from last year.
And then what you can do is you can fight General Nazgrim, and you'll hear like several different countdowns. And if you're raiding with Koltrane, he'll try to throw you off by saying 7, 6, 8.
I do that, yes. But DBM, Deadly Boss Mods, great raiding add-on. Another one in the chat room's exploding with it. GTFO.
Actually, I think they were just saying that to you about DBM.
Right.
Really?
Oh, I thought it was good. Thanks for oranges. Isn't that what they?
Right. Right.
Well, you're welcome.
Right.
I'm selling them at the end of the show. But GTFO
is amazing, especially like on the Fallen Protectors fight, right? Because there's a bunch of poison on the ground, and you might not see it if you're all encased in the little thing and whatever's going on in the bubble. And so it's one of those things that will tell you via a very annoying sound that you're standing in something that you shouldn't. So,
which is great, and it's already pre-configured. It's right out of the box.
GTFO is the easiest add-on because there's literally nothing you have to do. It just turn it on and it's gone. Yeah,
exactly.
That's it.
Darius, how about you? What are some other things that you like to use a lot?
Recount or SCADA, something like that. Not just to turn on and look at your DPS. That's the last thing you should be looking at. Look at damage done. Look at damage taken. Look at things like survivability, like deaths and things like that. Look at overhealing. Look at numbers that are not your heals per second.
Wait, hold on a sec. Don't tell me to look at overhealing. That's all I do.
Yeah, especially Druids.
I meant like 55, 60%. That's awesome, right? That's pretty good.
Like the Zug show, right? Starring Zug.
That's right.
Look at those things. Wow. Look at damage taken. If you're at the top of damage taken and you're not a tank, I think you've done something wrong. So look at that and figure out where you took the most amount of damage. Why did you take that much damage?
Right.
Those kind of things are so much more helpful than how much DPS you're doing. If the boss dies and you did 10 DPS, but did everything you were supposed to do, that is so much better than you doing 1,000,000 DPS and the boss isn't dying for 4 hours.
Right.
Those things are. I hate that recount and SCADA kind of default to that DPS screen.
Yep. I
love it.
Actually, there are a couple of other things that people should probably be aware of. Weak auras is one of them, and that has a bunch of different uses, and there are people much smarter than me that will program stuff for you to import into this program where it can tell you stuff.
Yeah, weak auras is invaluable for adding things, because every raid group has that one mechanic they can't figure out, that one debuff, that one whatever. And weak auras allows someone in your group to create something for the whole raid to use. All they do is click on it, it imports it, and it gives you a big pop-up that says this ability is coming soon, or dispel this person, or whatever it is.
Right.
That you're not going to get from a DBM the other one. Big wigs.
The other one.
Big wigs.
The other one.
So get weak auras.
Right. And also the other thing that I want to say is that if the native UI is not working for you, if you're not seeing stuff in the native UI, change your UI. Right? I mean, what are you, Darius, you're using are you using ElvUI?
I'm using ElvUI right now, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty well.
Colt, are you using any particular thing, or?
I'm using Dominoes, baby.
Oh, look
I
at you.
love the Dominoes.
And I've got a scratch pad of crazy crap going on with like Ice HUD and Voodoo, and I've kind of made my own, and it really looks like a hobo is running the show when I'm behind my druid, but
right,
it works for me.
But the point is, go ahead.
I was just saying, add-ons are not, unless you're installing add-ons you don't need, they're not there to detract from the game. Everything Blizzard has in its game now, including the bars and the healing grid and all that kind of stuff, that's all written the same way add-ons are written. It's basically the same thing. If that's not working for you, if it's not helping your performance, if it's hindering you in any way, change it. Don't just assume, oh, because Blizzard put it in the game or it's default, it has to be better. It's not. It's not for you. Change it. No one's gonna think you're a better player if you play without add-ons. No one's gonna think you're a worse player if you play with add-ons.
Right.
Make it work for you.
It shouldn't be about that. It should be about making it work for you. And please, if you're a healer, consider anyway using things like Voodoo and Healbot and some of the other healing add-ons out there for you, Grid, and other things of that nature, because that can make life a little bit easier anyway for you. It'll put everything in one spot and really make it nice. Or mouse over macros or whatever you need to do, but make sure that you're kind of automating the system, because I know that, clicking on somebody and then clicking on a spell to heal them probably isn't going to work for a lot of raiders out there. So
I mean, it works, but it's just faster to use something like Voodoo. Now, spell Voodoo, it's VUHDO.
VUHDO is how you spell that. All right, we need to move on to raid leaders. But Colt, what were you going to say?
Super quick for a DPS, something that really helps. Tell Me When.
Oh,
this is the greatest add-on ever created, in my opinion. Go to YouTube and search "Tell Me When" guide just to figure out how to set it up, because it's once you understand it, then it's very easy to set up. But it's an amazing thing that it'll show you abilities, it'll show you procs, it'll show you what you need to do for your character, whether you're playing DPS or whatever. I love Tell Me When, and highly, highly recommend that for anybody.
Cool. Well, let's move on to raid leaders and how we can improve some of this. And we're going to talk about tools and management now. We're actually going to get into the raid leading part. And the first thing that we need to say is that as raid leader, you need to know strats like the back of your hand, right, Darius?
Yeah, as we talked about before, if you're a healer, know all the healer stuff. But if you're the raid leader, know what the tanks are doing, know what the DPS are doing, know what the healers are doing, know everything, but know multiples of those. Don't just watch a Fat Boss guide and assume that's it. That's the strat that's going to work. Watch multiples. Watch 3 or 4. Watch kill videos that don't even have strats over top. See what they're doing, because every raid group is different. Fat Boss uses a specific composition. They're 10-man. They only use whatever. You might not have a paladin in your group at all, and they have a strat that's centered around paladins.
Right.
So watch something else, because it might not work. Don't spend 4 hours wiping on a boss for a strat that is never going to work for you.
Right.
Watch multiple and know when to call it quits and say, okay, that's not working. We're going to try something else here.
Yep.
Be able to adapt that way.
Right. And maybe we should also talk about tools that raid leaders should be using on a regular basis. And I think that there is one, or like two, I guess they're similar, that raid leaders need to be using to be able to figure out what the heck is going on with their team. And that is going to be Warcraft logs or World of Logs. I know that World of Logs has been around for a long time, and Warcraft logs is that still in beta?
I think he's out of private alpha, but it's still in like a public alpha kind of thing. Isn't fully launched yet, but it's far usable. I mean, it's so much better than it was a couple months ago.
Right. And I think that I think that these logging systems are good for not just for raid leaders, but for players to be able to analyze their own play and how they stack up amongst their teammates and what they were doing during certain parts of the fight versus other people.
Yes.
So, Colt, are you always looking at logging sites like this?
I love this new one, Warcraft Logs. Now, we have been doing World of Logs for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So now there's this new bad boy called Warcraft Logs. And Warcraft Logs, in my opinion, is like World of Logs on steroids, but like legal. All right, so it's okay. You know, it's like the kind of steroids that actors use. Like, come on. I mean, it's okay. It's legal. But Warcraft Logs has everything that World of Logs has, but like times 10. And for example, there's this amazing feature in Warcraft Logs. And basically what you can actually do is you set it up, it's going or whatever. The fight ends for the night. You're looking at it. You can actually, in Warcraft Logs, watch your raid team via a top-down view of them actually moving, their characters moving in real time during the fight.
What?
I know.
That's crazy.
You can do this. So basically, you fight like Siegecraft or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You can actually, and I'm going to tell you how to do it here real quick. You can click this thing, and you can actually see, and they're colored to their class and character. Oh, well, you can see them. Oh, they moved over here, then so-and-so moved here. And it's all in real time of the fight. So you can see where people's positions are, and it's all in real time. Basically, the way to do it, I'll just say this super fast.
Yeah.
When you go to warcraftlogs.com, look in the upper right, you'll find a recent public report. This is just something that you can follow along at home. Find like a recent public report. This is like somebody did a Warcraft log, and here it is. Once you click that, near the upper left, you will see Analytical View. Click that and then select Combat Replay View. Now, if it says you have to enable advanced combat logging, just try another one until you find one that does have it enabled, but that's something that's super easy to do. Anyway, Combat Replay View, and then after you select that, in the lower left-hand corner, there's a button that says Play. Hit play, and then boom, like there's your team fighting the boss, and it's all all the dudes are moving around.
That's
like you
crazy.
can see the tank run in, you see his little dot, then you see, the DPS, you see him spread out, and they move left, and they move right. And it's an amazing tool that you can be like, guys, look at this view. Look, you were going to the left, you should have gone right. You can also deselect certain players if you only want to focus on one or two guys.
Like yourself.
It's unbelievable. Yes, it's just amazing. It's the coolest thing ever. It's just neat and geeky and all that stuff. So, and it's still like in an early stage, but it works just beautifully.
Right.
So
you
anyway,
can really
check
watch
that out.
the dance. That's awesome.
Yeah, you literally can in real time as you guys are fighting the boss. It's super, super awesome.
Right. Darius, what other tools do you think that would be important for raid leaders out there?
I just want to go back to the Warcraft logs and World of Logs thing. I just want to. I know everyone for the longest time was using World of Logs, but this new warcraftlogs.com site is much better. The information that you get is so much easier to understand, so much easier to read. Taking a look at, again, not just DPS and heals per second, but who they were healing, how they were healing them, how effective were people with resource management, things like that. But it's so much better for tracking fights as well. The developer does an amazing job of staying on top of things, of making sure bosses get tracked correctly, using new combat events, things like that the Blizzard add into the game to try to make logging better, that the guy at World of Logs hasn't used in years, hasn't updated. So if you're looking for a logging solution, warcraftlogs.com is going to be that. Start using that. But cool. Beyond that, like I said, Recount and SCADA, use those, especially as a raid leader, use those. Look at, like I said, damage taken, damage done, things like that. Look at those kind of things. Look at death logs.
Yep.
See who died, and not just that they died, but why did they die? If they're like, oh, there was nothing I could do, but you go and you look and they were standing in the poo for 30 seconds, you're like,
This is actually why Dairies never actually runs into the instance. He just waits for people to pick him up after a wipe, because he's looking at logs. I mean, that is the reason that on the ground. Well, for the most part, I think sometimes you're just there to make the healers angry or something. I don't know.
That's right.
Sometimes I'm just crying in the corner. But no, most of the time is I'm looking at that kind of I'm refreshing Warcraft logs and looking at that. I'm looking at Skada and I'm looking at what went wrong in that fight. What did I do wrong? What did the other tank do wrong? Why was everything out of control? And then looking at it and saying, okay, well, this person stood in this, or this person activated this, or Torage taunted the boss again. Yeah.
Torage! Stop it!
He does too much deeps. That's why he taunts the boss.
Way too much. He does.
But those things are so important. And yeah, that's why I don't run back, because I'm looking at that stuff. I'm using every single wipe as a learning experience.
Right.
Right. And that's something everyone should be doing. I'm not saying no one should run back. I'm saying, use these tools as the raid leader, especially though. Use these tools. Live log World of Logs or Warcraft logs. They both do an amazing job of this. And look after every wipe. Look and see.
Yeah.
Who was struggling and why.
There are also other things for raid leaders, and I know that we could talk about this for a while, and hopefully one of these days we'll be able to get more into both of those things. But some more tools for raid leaders out there. RBS is an add-on. It's called Raid Buff Status. That is going to determine whether or not your team is ready to go for the next pull, right? So there's that. There's also DBM, as we talked about before. But as a raid leader, keep a watch on those different timers and Colt's voice, of course. Yeah. But are there other resources, add-ons, websites that we can talk about specifically for raid leaders, guys?
What is that add-on that I've heard you guys use, where you can actually track how many cooldowns the entire raid has and what cooldowns they have left?
There's a bunch of those. DBM has a thing built into it. You can get like a separate add-on that manages that. There's a whole bunch out there.
I have one that does that, but it keeps all of the raid buffs, or I'm not the raid buffs, the cooldowns over on the left-hand side of my screen, so that I'm like, oh, okay, so we have this during this fight.
Meaning like so-and-so would have
like tranquility,
right,
or whatever the other cooldown. I can't even think of the cooldowns.
Yeah, there's healing Tide Totem and Pally Bubbles and things like that. There's add-ons like Hermes. They track those kind of things. Those require a little bit of setup, but they're really good to have as a raid leader because you can see everything that's going on. But there are times where you don't want every single cooldown showing up on your screen.
Right.
But those are really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else there, fellers? On
Aura 3 is another one they're saying. ORA 3 is another one they're saying.
Oh yeah, Aura 3 is good because the problem with that is everyone in your raid has to have that for it to be really effective. But that'll show you not only cooldowns, but it'll show you what everyone's gear is at. So if they're repaired or not, if everyone's fully gemmed and enchanted, all that kind of stuff. If you can get your whole raid group to use Aura 3, it's really valuable for your raid leader to have.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty. Why aren't we using that?
I've mentioned it to the group multiple times.
Did you? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, maybe we need another mention of that, or maybe this will get everybody's.
This is the mention.
Yes.
No, our raid team doesn't listen to this show.
For me, it's the mention. I don't think I got the earlier ones at all. All right, let's talk about management, because management is actually a huge part of raid leading. Not only do you have to manage getting all the players there on time on a regular basis, but you also have to manage the players while they're in game, and you also have to look at a bunch of other things along the way. First of all is probably time management. Time management is one of those things where you take a look at it and you go, okay, we're going to give this boss so long before we change things up or whatever. You're always looking at the clock, right? Darius, maybe I'll throw it to you.
Know when to call it quits on a specific strat. Know when to say this isn't working, or be able to say we need to change something. Not to say quit trying to kill the boss, but right. Be able to say this we need to come up with something new. But I mean, there are times where you do need to quit that boss. Say, okay, we're trying this on heroic. We don't have time left.
Yeah,
let's stop. We'll kill everything else on normal. Let's get some gear and that kind of stuff. But it's also personal time management. Make sure that you show up to raids first and foremost. You're the raid leader. You need to be there. You need to be able to,
We need to actually be there. What?
Sometimes.
Can't we just do it remotely?
It's usually the first night is pretty good if you show up.
Right. Yeah, that would be nice if you could show up the first night that you guys are reading together. That would be great.
Yeah.
And then after that, phone it in. No.
Yeah, be there and be there early for if people have questions or to make sure everything's set up or all that kind of stuff. Like, don't show up 20 minutes after the raid was supposed to start as the raid leader. That's not a good way to lead.
Right.
Be able to not only manage that, but manage your players, manage their attitudes, manage them, the dynamic within the group, both in game and out. So if you're using forums or group me or texting or something like that, be able to monitor that stuff and know when someone is fed up or angry or causing drama, and be able to manage those things effectively. You don't want that kind of stuff. You don't want someone that's going to be a poison within your group. Be able to deal with that without drama. That's probably one of the biggest things here as a raid leader, is make sure that you know how to handle drama yourself.
And Koltrane, I know that you deal with everything with no drama whatsoever.
Right. The drama mama. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I'm just kidding.
We have that problem because we have another priest in our raid group whose name is Drama Sauce. So
right. And he's so drama free. It's like, what? He's drama.
We have yet to have a raid night free of drama because of him. Worst.
That's funny. And then you also have to know one of the big things is communication, like what you were talking about. But it's how to deal with those times when you're wiping time after time and things get quiet. Because when things get quiet, people are still talking to each other. They're just not using mumble or whatever, right?
Just typing in whispers. Like if things are quiet, something is wrong.
Yeah.
And know what's wrong. And if you don't know how to fix it, at least communicate. Say, we're just wiping on this boss. I don't know what to do. Does anybody have any ideas?
Right.
Does anyone want to try something? What's going on? Why, that kind of stuff, know it. And to that point, we kind of skipped over this, but this is really, really important. Criticism. Know how to not only give it, so be able to criticize other players in an effective way, but how to receive it. If you're doing a poor job and someone calls you out on it, you need to be able to accept that and say, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know. Right. Like the strat isn't working. I need help.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing, right? Colt, being open to suggestions and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zug, that's a big part of it. You know what I mean? Something to keep in mind too, player management. You can't just sit there and explain for 30 minutes the strat to the raiders. These are people too. These are human beings, and they have short attention spans.
Right.
I did some raid leading a ton in Wrath of the Lich King. One thing I found that was actually effective was I targeted the groups. I said, okay, DPS, listen up. This is what you're going to do. Okay, tanks, listen up. This is what you're going to do. Okay, healers. And I find that that's good because a lot of times if you're talking about the tanks and I'm a DPS, I'm going to start to not pay attention, and vice versa. So I found sometimes targeting specific groups and saying what they need to do really kind of helped out the situation. So they know, oh, it's my turn coming up now. I need to pay attention. Look, there's this fantasy that you want them to pay attention for everything, but just understand that these are people. They are distracted. They do have this or that going on. So, but also be quick in the explanation. They don't want to sit there and spend 30 to 40 minutes listening to a strat, and then we pull, and then we wipe, and then we spend another 30, 40 minutes. You know what I mean?
Ugh,
like, keep it going, keep it moving.
Right. And and there's a lot more to this. Unfortunately, I think that we're out of time for this week. But so we'll pick it up again next week. We'll try to see what we can cover next week as far as raid leader stuff for 2014, how we can improve ourselves. We'll talk a little bit about loot next week. What do you say, guys? We'll talk about that and kind of how raid leaders should handle loot and some of the options out there for you. We may again key in on communication, stuff like that. If you guys have questions on how to be a better raid leader, why don't you send them into the show? And we can work on a whole new thing for next week, leading the raid back on this as far as how we can be a more effective raid leader in 2014. If you guys have suggestions or questions or whatever, let us know. We can address them here on this show next week. And I think that's where we're going to have to leave it, unfortunately, because we are out of time. It happens. It happens. So what we need to do is we need to close out the show. And how do we do that? Well, we start with 5-star reviews and Dairies' favorite song. Dance for us, Dairies. Dance.
Do it, Dairies.
See me, I forgot.
Dairies, who do we have to thank for our 5-star reviews this time around?
We have Butts. I don't know. That seems like they picked random letters. Maybe.
Boots. I don't know.
The original Northman, the Zedeca, and Dark.
Dark.
Just Dark.
And any shout-outs this week, fellers? I know that I have a shout-out to Waku from Airy Peak.
I know him.
Yeah. He actually sent me a Pierre pet, the little stovetop pet, and gave it to me last night.
Is that in the game?
Yeah.
I know that was in the game.
And you can battle with him and everything like that.
No kidding.
It's great. It's great. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for, we cannot do this show without you guys. Happy New Year, by the way, to everybody out there. Thank you for taking the time to rate us on iTunes. Thanks for the feedback. Thanks for the questions that we didn't get to this week. Very sorry. We had several. But please, feel free to join in on the conversations that we're having anytime, anywhere. And with that, I bail on the music.
You gonna bail out?
I'm just gonna bail right on out of that. It's been a while since I've had to bail out on the music.
No kidding.
And we will kick it off with this music. There we go. All right. You can email us at convertraid@gmail.com. You can call and leave comments and questions on our raid line, 612-787-RAID. That's 612-787-7243. You can follow us on Twitter at convertraid or Koltrane. Where can they follow us individually?
You can follow Pat Crane at Pat Crane. You can follow Koltrane at _Koltrane. And you can follow Dairies at Board Mind.
Right. Make sure to join the Bazuba Guabo Nation by heading over to convertraid.com, where we have show downloads, we have our videos, we have forums, we have tons of links for raiders and so much more. Our videos can also be seen on gamebreaker.tv. Gamebreaker. Yeah. Shout out to all the Gamebreaker folks. And all that kind of stuff. But we have everything over at convertraid.com as well. Our show is available on Stitcher, the BlackBerry Podcast Directory, iTunes, all sorts of other different places like that. And that is going to be it for the show. Thank you, guys. Thank you, fellas, for joining me again in the new year. It's fantastic. Really is. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you on our next show next week at our regular time, Sunday, 11 a.m. Central. And for all the guys that Convert to Raid, bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bye.